Today we need to get into K Media apparently posting about the label and Jin's relationship and what's going on with that. We also have people saying that JK's brother posted a little something about an alleged girlfriend and what that is about. And then we have some pics trending that are pretty cute and fun. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on, and make sure you join us fangirling on Patreon with some free content on Saturdays now, and let's go. We have some really fun pictures that have trended recently, and I think they're really fun and cute, and I want to talk about them. There is, of course, a lot of backlash when these photos are talked about because these photos are talked about in a shipping way, which is very, controversial. However, I'm not trying to talk about this moment in that light, and I want to specify that because I think I've said everything that there is to have been said about shipping and how I feel about it, which is that I do like it, but I think that that's kind of where it should stop, where it's just a fantasy and a thing to think about. When it gets to the point where you're insulting other people and you're attacking other idols or members, then that becomes a problem. However, I did want to talk about it because it's one of those things that I think is really cute and I think also needs to be addressed, which is that we don't know the members the way that we think we do. And I know this topic is very controversial because we like to think that we know everything. We know exactly who they are and what they're all about and what they like to do. It almost breaks that fantasy when we realize that they aren't exactly how we think that they are. So recently there was a photo that came out where we saw both V and JK using the same silverware or plates. So this was discovered because the two have done several live streams and several cooking live streams in which they have shown the plates and the silverware that they use for their food. And sometimes there's overlap in what the two use. Now there are theories going on, which is that the two members hang out so much that they borrow each other's silverware. And then other theories are probably more likely, which is that the two just so happen to buy very similar types of silverware. I think that if you're Asian, you might know exactly what's going on here, because a lot of Asian people grow up in a family where you might use specific, let's say, floral pattern to put rice or something. And then you go to your aunt's house or you go to your other mom's friend's house, and you'll notice that all the plates and the stuff are pretty similar. This isn't because they're necessarily borrowing each other's stuff, and it isn't even necessarily that they're asking each other where they bought that specific thing. It's just that if you go to an Asian supermarket or if you go to an Asian place to buy things, you'll start to see pretty much the same thing. And that's what I'm talking about, is that a lot of Asian moms or a lot of Asian people will kind of shop at these similar Asian chains, and they will sell the same product pretty much anywhere. This is how you see that overlap. This is just one of those things that I think people tend to overjudge or overthink, and they tend to think that they know what the members are like without understanding that a lot of this stuff is more of a cultural thing. And unlike what I believe in Western culture is bad, like having similar things in the house as others, it's not considered a shameful thing in Asian culture. Of course, I thought this was funny, but there are things that are trending that are interesting as well. And one of those things that I thought was interesting was there was this article talking about how BTS's label was in crisis, and they're now awaiting Jin's return. This is interesting because I think people are drawing from the lawsuit that's happening and all this crazy stuff that's happening recently, and they're saying that too much is going on, too many bad things is happening, and then now they're excited for this idea that one of the members is coming back to the military and is essentially going to save the label. However, if a company is in crisis, having one person come back from the label and making a lot of money from the label isn't really going to stop the crisis, because it's not like without the specific member, Jin, the label will be out of money. They would still have a lot of money, and so having more money wouldn't stop the problem that's happening, because that's not what the problem is. This is interesting because it posts the relationship between Jin and the label, and it shows that the news, as well as potentially the label, relies a lot on BTS and the members. What I do think Jin could help in this case is probably change the public image of the label. Right now, I think the label has been looked at in a really bad light at the moment, and a lot of people are really upset. And with a lot of these things, it's hard to make judgments because you don't know what's going on within the label. And so I don't like to jump on this idea and say that the label is bad when we don't know everything, and we will never know everything. That is really the truth. The fact of the matter is that the boys decided to re-sign with the label. That means that the boys have actively chosen this route to be with the label, saying the label is good. They have publicly said that they will side with whatever the label decides to do. That is their way of saying that they trust the label 100%. So a lot of people do say that the label and the boys are separate, and if you hate the label, you can still love the boys and all that stuff. I tend to disagree, because that's like saying if you hate one of the BTS members, the other members would still love you. The the boys consider the label as part of their success and a huge part of their success. However, as I said, I don't know necessarily if Jin coming back from the military is really going to do anything for the label at the moment. However, I'm very excited to see if he will attempt to try to push an album or pull it out really quickly. He might have been working on some things in the military and thus have something to put out. But there have been occasions in the past where artists will sort of push out a song really quickly in order to try to get the attention off the label, or with the bad attention. Essentially, something that could help the label right now is try to get the bad press away from the label so that investors will still invest and not pull out. However, from what I've seen, I don't see many investors pulling out, and their stock seems to be doing okay right now. I also like to say that I think news sites and a lot of media sites like to emphasize and exaggerate when they think a company is failing, because they think that that will make a good clickable story. And really, I would say the fault of the K-pop labels and why they seem so fallible is because a lot of K-pop labels insist that they remain famous. If you look at a lot of Western labels, those labels don't seem to act like they're celebrities. We don't tend to know the CEO of a specific record label that well unless you're in the industry. And that's by design, right? That way a label can't really get into a scandal, a label can't really lose investors, and the scandal ends up falling on the artist. And so the label does this so they can save themselves and they kind of get rid of an artist that maybe is in a lot of scandals, but then still keep their own label running and then get more artists coming in to make up the money. I can't say which one is better and which one isn't. One seems to have a lot more protection for the artist, while the other ones and the Western ones doesn't seem to, right? So there's good and bad with each of them. But I think it's interesting because I'm wondering if BTS's label make that transition eventually. It's hard for K-pop labels to make this transition because they need to be famous enough where if they were to do casting calls, enough people would show up. I do think that if, let's say, Island Records were to do an audition for artists, I still think a lot of people would show up. Now, recently there was a story that sort of went viral again, and it was a story involving Lisa and Jung Kook's brother. This was a crazy story back when it happened, but people are talking about it again. And basically what happened was Jung Kook's brother has a clothing line, and I believe he gifted a shirt or sweater to Lisa, and basically the sweater or shirt was worn and photographed. Now, if you don't know, JK's brother does have a clothing line, and JK was actually the creative director at one point, has now stepped down, I believe, and kind of just maybe like a silent investor or something. I don't know for sure. And around this time when it happened, JK and Lisa had the biggest dating rumor ever. So it reached the height, and at that point, Lisa was still single and a lot was happening. So people thought that since JK's brother and Lisa apparently have some sort of connection, that JK and Lisa must have been dating, or that the brother had exposed this. Now, this is one of those theories and stories that are absolutely crazy, because on the one hand, you could believe this to be true and it would make a lot of sense, but on the other hand, just wearing a shirt or whatever it is seems to be quite silly to assume dating. The reason why JK maybe was an executive or played an executive role in the company was probably because he would have the best idea on how to promote something. And I'm not saying that JK's brother's brand is a cash grab, because it's not. The clothes are actually really good. But there are a lot of brands that are cash grabs, and the only reason why they exist is because the celebrity can slap their name on it. And if the celebrity is powerful enough, they will be able to sell the product just from their name. Now, that is one of the perks of having an executive in the company that is a celebrity, is that the company would sell regardless. Now, the other perk in having a celebrity or an influencer at the top of a company is the fact that they would know how to promote the company the best. And I don't just mean promote it with their own face. I mean promote it among their other celebrity friends, or promote it on social media and get a lot of press for it, or wear it on social media. There's just so many ways that a celebrity could get something to sell, especially BTS members. And so that is exactly probably why the clothing brand was potentially given to Lisa. And that is if it was given to Lisa, right? It could have very well been bought by Lisa. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.